And if we move on to the next fight, we've got another fight which I've got a lot to talk about. Umar Nurmagomedov finding Brian Kelleher. And once again, in my opinion, I do think that the odds are a little bit too wide in this one. I think a lot of people are disrespecting Brian Kelleher on this one here. I wouldn't be aligning Umar Nurmagomedov as a minus 700 favorite, even though he was a minus 500 favorite over Sergey Morozov, and he did make the fight look easy. So I will give him that credit there. There's a lot of massive favorites on this card. Umar Nurmagomedov is one of them. I am picking Umar Nurmagomedov to win. Before we get into the breakdown, I'm just going to have a look at the odds here, because I'm very surprised that we've got like minus 650 at best value for Umar Nurmagomedov, plus 500 at best value for Brian Kelleher. Guys, this is MMA. Literally anything could happen, and I do think Umar Nurmagomedov is a better striker than Brian Kelleher, and I do think that he's a better grappler than Brian Kelleher, but just barely, you know what I mean? Umar Nurmagomedov looked awesome against Sergey Morozov. He threw a lot of kicks, a lot of very fast kicks, but he has been out for about 6 months. He hasn't fought in over a year. He has been out for 6 months, specifically because of torn ligaments in his legs. So hopefully he's able to have recovered quite well from there. On the other hand, though, Brian Kelleher has been very active. He fought only about a month ago. He fought at featherweight, which is a weight class up, against Kevin Kroom. He looked pretty good in that fight, but it is Kevin Kroom. He beat Domingo Pilate pretty much anywhere where the fight went, and Domingo Pilate was a lot taller than him. Lost to Ricky Simone, beat Ray Rodriguez, lost to Cody Stamann. This is the thing with Brian Kelleher, in my opinion, he beats all of the guys that aren't that step up in competition. You know, that's why he's such a perfect test for Umar Nurmagomedov. An example can just be shown in his last 5 fights. He beat Kevin Kroom, he beat Domingo Pilate, and he beat Ray Rodriguez. But his 2 losses come to guys in the top 15, like Cody Stamann and Ricky Simone. 2 guys that are in the top 15, 2 guys that would really test Umar Nurmagomedov. This is why I think that Umar Nurmagomedov versus Brian Kelleher is actually a very good test to see where Umar is actually at. Because I think with a win over Brian Kelleher, Umar could probably start calling out some top 15 guys in that bantamweight division, or guys that are just outside of the top 15. But with that being said, let's just get into the fights. I know I've spent a decent amount of time rambling, about 2 minutes rambling about this fight. We've got to go to Umar Nurmagomedov's debut against another debuting fighter in Sergey Morozov, who is now 1-2 in the UFC. He was a favorite to beat Douglas Silva de Andrade. I picked him to beat Douglas Silva de Andrade, and he lost. Not really too good, but he did beat Kelleher as an underdog, which is a pretty good look, I guess you could say. And if you go to the stats here of the fighters, Brian Kelleher versus Umar Nurmagomedov, Brian Kelleher, he does land 1.87 takedowns per 15 minutes. Umar Nurmagomedov lands a lot, because he did land a few, but he also has decent striking as well. You cannot overlook the striking of Umar, in my opinion. But yeah, with that being said, I guess I have kind of rambled on a lot about these 2 guys. I don't really think I've said anything of substance, but there isn't really too much to say. Umar Nurmagomedov, great striking, he's got great grappling as well. Brian Kelleher has great defensive submissions. He does have like 6 guillotine wins in his career. I think maybe even more than that. So you can't really overlook the chances of Brian Kelleher here. He could catch one of Umar's kicks, and he could drop him with a big right hand, or a left hand, or something. Like he did knock out Hunter Azura, who was undefeated at the time. But I do think that Umar Nurmagomedov will get the job done. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him, though. I'm going to go Nurmagomedov decision. I think we're going to see a decision on the end of Umar. Yeah, I think that Kelleher is going to be durable enough to survive all 3 rounds. But I do think that we're going to see probably like a 30-27, maybe a 29-28. Brian Kelleher is going to have his own moments, though. I do think a lot of people are just overlooking him quite a bit, but Umar is a legitimate prospect, a legitimate Russian prospect, and a guy to look out for definitely in the future, definitely a future top 10, maybe even a top 5 opponent in the UFC. I do have a very high ceiling set for Umar, but I'm just not, I'm being realistic. I'm not overlooking Brian Kelleher as a plus 500 underdog. That's too much for me, man. I wouldn't really be parlaying Umar, even if there is even any value even there. I would say maybe minus 400, minus 300 would be good value for Umar. Not minus 700, guys. I just don't think there's any value in this fight anymore. I think it's a fight to avoid. But I do think Umar's going to get the job done. I do have a little bit of confidence in him, but I'm not overlooking Brian Kelleher at the same time.